Hello and welcome back to the Frugal Granny channel. I'm Frugal Granny, my name's Ali. I'm a 64 and 3/4-year-old semi-retiree and I am recording my retirement journey, my early retirement journey in fact, from full-time work plus a part-time job down to semi-retirement plus just the part-time job, and how I cope with the decrease in income and manage to get through until I get my state pension in 2 years' time. Today is a little bit of a bonus. I've just hung up the laundry after my friend has left after their weekend visit, and I noticed how much the garden had grown, and I realised I'd not actually given you a garden tour recently, so I thought it would be rather nice while it's quiet outside and I'm not being bothered by construction noises from the nearby streets, that I gave you a quick garden tour. For those of you that are new, I have a very small garden outside the back of my Victorian terrace house, which I try to use for growing fruit and vegetables, and I also like to try and grow some white flowers for my well-being. So I really want the garden to feed my soul as well as my body. And so thank you very much to those of you who are returning viewers, and it's lovely to see you again. For those of you who've noticed, yes, I've got my new glasses on. I don't know really quite what to think about them at the moment. I like the shape and the size, but they are very focals, and I'm still trying to get used to focusing with them, especially for screen work, and but otherwise they're absolutely fabulous. I can actually walk down a supermarket aisle now and read the labels of the products on the shelves without having to lean towards them, and I can watch the television and it's all nice and clear as well. My son and I were watching a new series last night and I was just astounded how clear it was. I could actually read the subtitles and the things that people have on their phones on the screen, you know, when they're reading a text message and you're supposed to be able to read it. Well, actually I now can. So I'm really pleased with these new glasses, but I am still struggling with them a bit when it comes to actual screen work of my own. So I'm testing them out today on this garden tour. So anyway, let's go and look at the garden. As I said, I've had a friend for the weekend and they've gone back down to London now. So I'm just on the first stages of the laundry. I've just done all the towels and a couple of pillowcases there. Those are my son's trousers that have been hanging around for a while. And you can just see now the garden in its full glory. Everything has really sprung up. For those of you who are new, the garden's divided into 4 beds. I think it's called a 4-square design, except the corners, the inner corners, are sort of chopped off, and that's where I've got the potted agapanthus plants. Right, let's start on the front right and go round. Here's the front right bed, and you can see that the purple sprouting broccoli plants have completely shot up now, and they're really, really tall. They're probably just about up to my upper body now. Those are planted around the edge with some perennial spinach, which has gone to seed due to the excessive heat that we've had, which is a shame. I'm not sure if I can still eat the leaves. They might be a bit bitter to taste now, so I think I've probably had that with the spinach. In the background you can see my espaliered apple. That's a James Grieve, I think, or is it a John Grieve? Yeah, no, James Grieve. It's John Downey is the crab apple that I had. That's got lots of apples on it now, which are beginning to ripen. That's the most fruit I've ever had on that little tree. And that tree is now 8 years old, 9 years old. Down at the bottom you can see the rosemary cuttings that I made and have potted up. They're beginning to grow now, and the pinkish looking hydrangea is one of those white hydrangeas that I rescued from home base earlier in the summer. Let's just pan round a bit. So here we've got the sort of interstitial space between the front and the back bed. And I've got my fig tree here underplanted with alpine strawberries, which have not done very well this year, the alpine strawberries. There's my new bay tree, which needs a weed pulling out of it, and a white fuchsia plant. I'm just going to get closer with the fig tree because I've had masses of figs. I think you can see one just down there at the bottom. The fig tree has been quite amazing this year. I'll just pan round a bit. I've picked a lot of the figs off it now, but there's one there in the centre of the screen. That one's not quite ready. I'll leave that another couple of days. Yep, so there they are. Oh, there's one down there that I've missed. Might just try that one in a minute when I finish filming. The back bed has an espaliered pear tree against the wall, and that's got quite a lot of pears on it this year. I can see 2, 4, 6, 8, maybe 9, 10 pears this year, which is great. It's not really doing as well as it could do, but at least it's got some pears on it. Pears are so expensive in the shops, and I really like pears, so I'm pleased with that. Right, further down, the rhubarb's still going, and further down there we've got the strawberries, which are now pretty much over and starting to put out runners. This is the back seating area of the garden. My bicycle's underneath that tarpaulin. I'm still debating whether or not to sell it. I'm hanging on in there for now because it would be a good pack horse if I was without a car and I needed to bring a large amount of shopping home from the supermarket. You can see the apples on the tree. This is a complete surprise to me because usually this tree only fruits every other year. So it fruited last year, and I'm absolutely amazed to see it fruiting this year, unless I've got my years muddled up. I don't think I have. I'm sure it fruited last year. Yes, it did, because when I cleared out the wash house, there were some apples left in there from last autumn that had got a bit shriveled up. And the blueberries are now finished. They're in the pots against the back wall, and there's my spare water butt. In this area of the garden, I've got some of the white flowering shrubs that I planted in the main beds last summer that I've now removed again to make way for vegetables. And there's some white busy lizzies on the windowsill, which have not really liked the weather conditions recently, but I'm hoping we might have one last spurt from them before the weather really gets cold. Down here is the white buddleia that had awful leaf curl at the beginning of the year, and I cut all the diseased leaves off. That's actually allowed the plant to bush out, and I've now noticed this morning it's actually got some flower buds on it, so fingers crossed we might have some flowers and some butterflies before the autumn. This is the back left bed, and it's got my kale plants in it. I've only lost one plant, and I think that was not a pigeon attack in the end. I think it was probably cabbage root fly, so I've not needed to net this bed after all. I've probably got about 12 or 14 kale plants, and they will see me through the winter for green food. I put them particularly in Tuscan bean soup, and we eat them with roast dinners. And in the spring, once the side shoots start to come, I put the side shoots in stir fries. The loganberry has now finished fruiting, and I need to cut out this year's vines and tie in the new growth, but that can be a job for later in the week. Here we have my old bay tree and my second fig tree in the interstitial space between the front and back left-hand beds. I was discussing with my friend over the weekend about getting rid of this fig tree because it's not produced any figs since I moved into the house and planted it. But I've been looking at it this morning, and right up there, I think, can you see top of the screen in the middle, there is a baby fig. That baby fig has granted this tree a reprieve, and I'm hoping, especially if I keep it well watered, that we might be in business in terms of that one producing figs now going forward. This is the front left bed. Again, it's got purple sprouting broccoli in it, and the garlic chives in the foreground have begun to flower. I'm sorry if you can now hear in the background the dustbin lorry. My neighbourhood is suddenly not as quiet as it was. Panning round to the right, the blackberries are fruiting, and I need to come out here and pick those this afternoon. Shh, shh, shh. This is the front left bed that has the Oregon blackberry against the fence, and there's a rosemary bush, and to the left in the middle you can see the cosmos plants that have not yet flowered. The blackberries are still fruiting, and I need to come out here this afternoon and pick them. The purple sprouting in this bed's not as tall as in the bed behind me, but it's still going to do well once the courgettes are over. I don't know if you can see from here. But we've still got quite a lot of courgettes coming. 3 down there that I need to pick later. Then there's a bit of a gap in this bed now because I actually broke one of the courgette plants when I was picking courgettes. I twisted the courgette off and the whole stem went, so in the end I had to pull that plant out, which is a shame. But the underplanted leeks have now got a chance to grow and fill out, so in a sense it was a blessing in disguise. So those bunched leeks are a bit of an experiment. I grew them in modules of a seed tray, and I didn't prick them out individually. I just planted them as a bunch because I wanted to see what would happen. And then there's the other hydrangea that I got from Home Base, from the Home Base rescue section. Then on the patio area, the geraniums seem to have stopped flowering, though the ones at the end have got a few new buds on them. The impatiens, the busy lizzies, are still going. If it's just pan round here, I've put water out for the wildlife during the hot weather. And then on that side, I've still got some nasturtiums in the trough, another busy lizzie, and a couple of geraniums. And then growing in this section, there's a little kitty who's wanting to sit on the patio chairs and wondering what on earth Mummy's doing, talking to herself in the garden. And then on the table you can see this morning's fig harvest and some eggshells that I've crunched up and put out to dry. I'm going to be saving those over the winter as slug deterrents for next spring. And then behind are my tomato plants in those little plant houses, and they've not been very good, but then I do need to say that I've not looked after them very well. I've not watered them particularly well. I haven't really fed them properly, so I'm not surprised that they've not been very good. To be honest, they've just been one step too far for me this year. So anyway, that's my garden. Let's just see who's down here. Who's down here? Hello, Poppet. What are you doing? Oh, somebody's drilling now. Can you believe it? Well, I hope you enjoyed the garden tour, and I'm really, really sorry about the background noise. Usually my garden is a really tranquil, quiet spot where I can sit and think my thoughts. But this morning we've had hammering, we've had the dustbin lorry, I've had to wait for my neighbour to move their wheelie bin full of recycled glass. I've had Cassie barking, and then I've had finally, police sirens and drilling, and there's also been the background noise of the second load of laundry, which thankfully has now finished. So I'm able to thank you for coming around the garden with me. It's been a brilliant year in the garden, actually, considering that last year I lost so much. And I honestly don't know whether that was due to residual herbicides in the potting compost that I used, or whether maybe I just put too much waste ground coffee on the flower beds and actually poisoned them myself. But last year was terrible. This year things have rectified themselves, really, apart from the tomatoes, and I can just put my hand up and say that's totally my fault because I've not watered them properly and I've not fed them. It really has just been one thing too much. So I need to rethink that one for next year. But anyway, thank you very much for coming around the garden with me, and I hope you enjoyed that. And now, having just talked to you for the last minute and a half, I can see that I've got 2 pairs of glasses on. I'm really still trying to get used to these new ones. I like them, but I am still struggling with getting adjusted to screen work. So I'm keeping my old readers on the top of my head so that if I get a little bit frustrated, I can just swap them out quickly. But anyway, thank you very much for coming along. And I will link my other 2 garden tours at the end of this video, so you can go back and see the progress over the year if you want to. And I'll see you again on Thursday for Coffee and Catch Up 15, and we'll see what financial news there has been over the last 7 days. Thank you. I hope you have a lovely week. Bye bye now.